In a tranquil rustic village, a band of conceited individuals survey Silas Blackwood's ranch as if it were defenseless plunder. Seeing only a heavy-set elderly black man they dismiss as feeble and sluggish, completely unaware that he is a retired Navy SEAL, a warrior forged by decades of Tier 1 training and ironclad discipline. Beneath Silas's placid surface lies a lifetime of accumulated power and tactical brilliance, and as threats intensify and violence gathers on the horizon, these aggressors woefully underestimate the ferocious guardian protecting his family's heritage. What commences as a mere territorial disagreement rapidly combusts into a high-stakes war for justice, compelling Silas to battle not merely for his acreage but for his very existence. Before we descend further into this tale, pause a moment to declare your location in the comments below, and ensure you've subscribed because the narrative arriving tomorrow is one you simply cannot afford to miss. The early sun cast elongated silhouettes across Silas Blackwood's fields as he navigated the moisture-laden grass, his weathered overalls pulled taut over his massive frame, and despite his bulk, he moved with a calculated elegance that hinted at dormant power. The timber fence posts required attention in spots, and the vintage crimson barn was shedding its coat, yet a profound pride resonated in how he tended every square inch of his ancestral soil. Silas hauled 2 dense feed buckets, his thick fingers clamped securely around the metal bales, while the chickens, identifying his rhythmic approach, scrambled to welcome him, clucking with enthusiasm around his boots. He dispersed the grain in practice sweeps, observing the birds as they attacked their breakfast with gusto. "Top of the morning, little ones," he murmured, his resonant bass voice barely exceeding a whisper, a gentle tone that seemed contradictory to his formidable stature yet perfectly attuned to the serenity of the dawn. From the veranda of the farmhouse, Martha Blackwood observed her husband with perceptive eyes, clutching 2 steaming cups of coffee, her silver-streaked hair gathered neatly behind her head. "You've beaten the sun again," she called out, navigating the eroded wooden stairs. Silas pivoted, a subtle grin softening his features. "The sun waits for no man, Miss Martha," he replied, grounding the buckets to accept the mug, their fingers grazing in a customary signal of devotion. Martha's sharp gaze scanned the estate alongside him. "Harrison's boy rode by again yesterday, marking the 3rd time this week." Silas nodded gradually, taking a measured sip. "Caleb's people are attempting to transmit a warning. I suspect their audacity is growing," Martha remarked, her attorney's intellect already dissecting possibilities ever since that fresh development initiative was publicized. The pair stood in companionable silence, witnessing the dawn splash the horizon in vivid tangerines and magentas, their property sprawling before them, 60 acres held by Silas's lineage for 3 generations, purchased with blood, toil, and resolve following emancipation. "We have that town assembly today," Silas reminded her, drifting toward the stable where the equines waited. Martha accompanied him, her presence a steady anchor. Inside the structure, Silas commenced portioning oats for the horses, his motions systematic and honed over decades. "They will attempt a maneuver," he stated pragmatically. "Caleb has been yearning for a collision." Martha leaned against a support beam, her drink neglected. "You believe they will strike at the assembly?" "It seems probable." Silas's voice remained level, though his eyes crystallized slightly. "It is a public venue with witnesses, and they will desire a spectacle." The morning evaporated into their standard regimen of nourishing beasts, inspecting barriers, and planning the day's labor, yet a subterranean tension vibrated like static preceding a tempest, felt by both but spoken by neither. By late afternoon, they navigated their vintage pickup into the village, finding the community center lot already packed with late-model cars that screamed of affluence and rank. Silas and Martha entered in unison, chins elevated despite the oblique stares and hushed remarks, the meeting hall stifling with excessive bodies and insufficient ventilation, plastic seats rasping against linoleum as the crowd settled. Near the dais, Caleb Stone and his entourage monopolized an entire row, their presence impossible to disregard, Caleb being decades Silas's junior with sheared hair and an eternal sneer, his faction wearing their bigotry like merit badges, sporting controversial insignias, inflammatory mottos, and an aura of barely restrained brutality. The session commenced with mundane administrative trivia, budget sheets, and road repair agendas, but when the subject shifted to the new development scheme, Caleb rose, his chair grating harshly. "Before we proceed any further," he proclaimed, his voice projecting distinctly across the chamber, "we must confront the elephant in the room." His gaze locking deliberately onto Silas. "Certain individuals here are squatting on soil they possess no claim to." A strained hush blanketed the hall, yet Silas remained ensconced in his seat, his visage neutral, though his colossal hands rested tranquilly on his knees. Caleb pressed on, emboldened by his own rhetoric. "My grandfather vended that territory to legitimate agriculturalists, not squatters asserting some archaic privilege, and we possess paperwork to validate it." "Your grandfather's paperwork would crumble in any tribunal," Martha interjected, her tone razor-sharp with legal expertise. "The Blackwood family holds a pristine title dating back to 1866. Nobody solicited your opinion, woman," one of Caleb's lackeys sneered. "We are discussing tangible property rights." Silas finally ascended, his motion unhurried and calculated, his magnitude appearing to saturate the space though his voice remained hushed. "My great-grandfather acquired that earth fairly and squarely, and we have cultivated it, inhabited it, and made it flourish for over a century and a half." Caleb encroached closer, his face flushing. "You people invariably believe you can appropriate what isn't yours, but that land is destined for the new expansion, progress, you understand, yet you are hindering everyone, sitting there like an obsolete fool who doesn't realize his era has vanquished." The room sizzled with friction, some shifting uneasily while others nodded in alignment with Caleb, yet Silas merely observed the younger man, his expression unyielding, and something in that steadfast stare caused Caleb's bravado to waver momentarily. "The deeds are filed at the courthouse," Silas stated with equilibrium. "Anyone wishing to verify is invited to do so, but unless you have legitimate business for this assembly, I believe we were debating the road maintenance itinerary." The journey back was mute, with only the crunch of gravel beneath tires interrupting the twilight, and Silas docked the old truck in its customary berth beside the house, yet neither he nor Martha exited immediately. "They will not abandon this," Martha said eventually, hands clasped in her lap, the descending sun casting elongated shadows through the windshield that accentuated the worry etched around her eyes. Silas nodded gradually. "No, they won't." He killed the engine but kept his large hands on the wheel. "Caleb has been awaiting a pretext, and that development project just provided one." Inside the residence, Martha navigated their well-worn kitchen, extracting ingredients for supper, her actions crisp and exact, a mirror of her years as a litigator. "We must chronicle everything," she advised, dicing vegetables with practiced speed. "Every encounter, every menace, we construct a paper trail." "Already initiated," Silas responded, retrieving a small notepad from his overall pocket. "Times, dates, observers, exactly as you instructed me." And a phantom of a grin traversed his face. The screen door groaned, followed by 3 rapid raps, a recognizable sequence. "Enter Ty." Silas beckoned without rotating. Ty Brooks stepped into the kitchen, his youthful face taut with anxiety, carrying himself at 21 with the fatigued wariness of someone who learned prematurely to guard his rear. "Heard regarding the events at the assembly," he stated, accepting the glass of sweet tea Martha extended. "Word travels swiftly." "Pull up a seat, son," Silas said, indicating their weathered table. "You appear to have something weighing on you." Ty sat, fingers tapping restlessly against the glass. "Folks are discussing forming militias, monitoring each other's lands, the younger generation, as we are exhausted from accepting this variety of disrespect." Martha paused her culinary work, exchanging a knowing glance with Silas. "And what is your assessment of that?" she inquired cautiously. "I think," Ty struggled with the phrasing, "I think I carry anger perpetually, as my grandfather confronted this identical refuse, and now here we exist, still battling for what is already ours." His voice fracturing slightly. "How do you remain so composed, Big S? How do you simply permit them to address you in that manner?" Silas leaned in, his massive frame causing the chair to protest. "Who claims I am permitting them to do anything?" His voice was low but laden with gravity. There is a distinction between maintaining calm and being passive. One is a decision, the other is capitulation. He stood, signaling for Ty to accompany him, and they stepped onto the rear porch where the evening atmosphere was cooling. Silas indicated seemingly arbitrary locations around the estate. Observe those fresh fence stanchions, motion detectors, those security floods linked to a silent alert? That dilapidated shed conceals 4 high-definition cameras with night vision. Ty's eyes widened incrementally. You have been preparing since the day I acquired this location, Silas confirmed. Readiness is not synonymous with fear. It is about reverence for yourself, your kin, your heritage. Inside, they could discern Martha on the telephone, her voice wielding the sharp command that once dominated courtrooms. Yes, I require a conversation with Leon at the County Records Division. Yes, I will hold. The sun had virtually vanished now, dyeing the heavens in profound indigos, and Ty watched as Silas systematically verified every latch and security protocol. You genuinely believe they will attempt something? They already have, Silas replied, gesturing to fresh tire impressions near the boundary. Been cruising by, probing reactions, searching for vulnerabilities. He paused, weighing his next utterance. When you have witnessed as much as I have, you learn to decipher the omens. Caleb's faction, they are winding themselves up to something. Each menace, each drive-by is like a countdown. As if on command, the remote growl of engines fractured the evening quiet, headlights manifesting on the access lane before abruptly extinguishing. Silas's hand landed on Ty's shoulder, steering him inward. Time for you to depart, son. Utilize the back route. But I could assist, Ty began to object. The finest assistance you can offer is being intelligent and safe, Silas interrupted firmly. Go on now. After Ty departed, Silas moved silently through the dimming house, and Martha watched from the kitchen as he donned a dark jacket and inspected an item in his pocket. Exercise caution, she said simply. Invariably. He kissed her cheek and vanished into the night. From his concealed vantage point in the ancient oak tree stand, Silas commanded an unobstructed view of his domain. The Stone Gang's trucks were stationed just beyond the visual range of the main thoroughfare, and 5 figures navigated the darkness, bearing canisters of aerosol paint and what appeared to be baseball bats. They commenced with the fence posts, demolishing them systematically, spray paint cans hissing as they toiled, depositing crude icons and racial epithets in lurid hues. Caleb supervised from the center, his voice drifting in whispers across the silent pasture. Deliver the message, he goaded his crew. Demonstrate to them what transpires when they do not recognize their station. Silas remained immobile in his hideout, his expression indecipherable in the gloom, hand resting near his pocket where a compact device captured everything, every crash of splintering timber, every hateful word emblazoned across his property, all of it documented precisely as Martha had tutored him. Dawn ruptured over Silas's farm, exposing the total scope of the previous night's vandalism, the morning condensation mingling with shattered lumber and neon pigment to create a grotesque contrast against the serene vista. Silas patrolled the property line methodically, his work boots stamping heavy indentations in the sodden grass, pausing at each ravaged section to capture photographs with his phone. The slurs sprayed across his posts caused his jaw to clench, yet his motions remained purposeful and tranquil. From the porch, Martha observed her husband, phone pressed to her ear. Leon, I realize it is early, but this cannot be postponed, she stated, her voice echoing the authority of her legal career. We must file a police report and preempt this. Yes, I comprehend the backlog. No, that is intolerable. Silas looked up as Ty's vintage Chevy ascended the dirt drive, the young man leaping out, face darkening at the spectacle of destruction. Man, this is unjust, he said, jogging over to assist. Let me retrieve some implements from my truck. Obliged. Silas nodded, already sifting through his own toolbox, extracting a level and fresh lumber stored in the barn. We will commence with the corner posts as they struck those hardest. As they labored, Silas's movements betrayed a precision that seemed contradictory to his large frame. He measured twice, sawed once, and positioned each new post with tactical forethought. Sight lines, he murmured almost internally, tweaking an angle. What was that? Ty asked, swiping sweat from his forehead. Nothing significant, Silas replied, but his eyes swept the tree line with practiced efficiency, and he reached into his pocket, checking a small device that resembled a phone but wasn't. Martha brought water around noon, face taut with irritation. Legal aid is backed up for weeks, she reported. And the police? They are looking into it, the sarcasm in her tone sharp enough to lacerate. They aren't going to do anything, Ty said bitterly, accepting the hydration. Same as always. They will act when we possess sufficient evidence, Silas said softly, displaying the morning's photos on his phone. Everything documented, time-stamped with GPS coordinates. He pointed to small markers placed near each damaged section. And those are survey stakes, proving exactly where our boundary lies. The day progressed hot and oppressive, and by sunset they had restored most sections. Silas insisted on concluding the work himself as darkness encroached, dispatching Ty home despite protests. Something doesn't feel correct, Ty said before departing. Let me remain, assist in keeping watch. The best aid you can provide is staying clear, Silas replied steadfastly. Trust me on this. Inside the farmhouse, Martha paced the kitchen. They are escalating, she said, watching headlights traverse the distant road. Each assault becomes bolder. Silas nodded, checking his tablet where security feeds displayed multiple angles. Detected movement on the back 40, he said calmly. 3 vehicles, lights extinguished, approaching from the south access road. Martha's hands clenched. Should we summon the police? Already done, Silas replied, voice steady. Anonymous tip regarding suspicious vehicles. They will take their time responding, but it will be on record. He stood, moving with startling silence for his size. Remain inside, away from windows, and call that news contact of yours, the one with the drone. The first firebomb shattered the barn window at 10:47 p.m., the explosion illuminating the night, followed rapidly by 2 more, flames leaping into the darkness as whooping voices drifted across the field. Gunshots cracked the air, sharp amateur discharges finding targets among Silas's livestock. From his concealed position in the reinforced pump house, Silas observed through military-grade night vision goggles, Caleb Stone's voice carrying clearly through the directional microphone. Incinerate it all, let's see them attempt to retain this place now. The gang moved with intoxicated confidence, oblivious to the infrared cameras chronicling their every gesture, failing to notice the small devices Silas had installed that morning capturing crystal-clear audio of their menaces and revelry. Inside the farmhouse, Martha maintained her poise, speaking lucidly into her phone. Yes, I am witnessing it occur right now, multiple perpetrators armed, committing arson and property destruction. Yes, we possess video evidence. No, I am secure. The heat from the blazing barn painted everything in a hellish orange glow, more gunshots ringing out followed by the pained sounds of dying animals. Through it all, Silas remained perfectly immobile, breathing controlled, large hands moving with practiced efficiency over familiar equipment, communications gear, surveillance monitors, and tools that seemed alien on a simple farm. The gang's assault grew more frenzied. They smashed windows, shot out security lights, and spray-painted more slurs across the farmhouse walls. Caleb Stone's voice rose above the mayhem. Emerge, old man, face us like a man if you possess the intestinal fortitude. But Silas stayed hidden, watching, recording, preparing, his expression neutral as he activated a series of switches on his belt. Around the property, hidden systems hummed to life, unperceived by the intruders who believed they held the advantage. The night air thickened with smoke as Silas moved like a phantom through his domain, his large frame melting into shadows with practiced ease, each step calculated and silent. The burning barn cast dancing shadows that worked to his benefit, creating shifting patterns of darkness perfect for concealment. Through his goggles, he watched Caleb's men spread out, drunk on their own success, making every amateur error in the manual. No proper sentry, no coordination, and worst of all, no respect for their environment. Their flashlight beams swept wildly, creating perfect blind spots. Silas touched his throat. "Mic check, Martha, stay low, it is commencing." His wife's acknowledgement came as a single click in his earpiece. The first tripwire activated near the old tractor shed, a simple device, fishing line connected to a row of tin cans. But in the tense atmosphere, the sudden clatter sent two gang members spinning, firing blindly into the dark. Their shots went wide, exactly as Silas had predicted. "What was that?" one shouted, voice fracturing. "Jimmy, is that you?" Silas pressed a button on his belt, and across the property, small speakers hidden that morning sprang to life, broadcasting recorded sounds, footsteps in dry leaves, twigs snapping, whispered voices. The gang members' heads whipped around, trying to track multiple threats that didn't exist. "Basic psychological warfare," Silas whispered to himself, recalling training exercises from decades ago. "Disorient and divide." Caleb Stone's voice carried across the yard. "Cease jumping at shadows, you imbeciles, locate that old man." Silas moved to his first target, a heavy-set man with a shotgun who had separated from the others, never seeing the cord at ankle height. He went down hard, shotgun clattering away, and before he could shout, Silas's massive arm wrapped around his throat in a perfect blood choke. Seconds later, the man was unconscious. "Sleep it off," Silas muttered, zip-tying the man's hands and removing his weapons. He clicked his radio twice. Martha would understand to mark the location for police evidence later. The gang's confidence began to fracture, their shots coming faster and more erratic. Silas triggered more distractions, a floodlight here, a recorded animal sound there, each time causing them to fire at nothing, wasting ammunition and revealing their positions. "Something isn't right," one called out. "Caleb, this feels wrong." Silas smiled grimly. Fear was setting in. He moved to his next position, deliberately stepping on a branch, the crack echoing through the night. 3 gang members spun toward the sound, but Silas was already elsewhere, circling behind them. A flashbang he'd positioned earlier detonated on cue, followed by smoke grenades rolling across the ground, the chemicals harmless, but the gang didn't know that, stumbling, coughing, and cursing. Perfect targets for Silas's next phase, he picked them off systematically, a precise strike to a knee here, a shoulder lock there, each takedown controlled, designed to disable without causing permanent damage, his SEAL training emphasizing efficiency over brutality. "He is everywhere!" someone screamed. The night dissolved into chaos as gang members fired at shadows and ran into each other. Caleb Stone stood by his truck, trying to rally his men. "Stand your ground, you cowards, it is just one old man!" Silas's voice, electronically distorted through hidden speakers, filled the air. "You boys selected the wrong farm." The words seemed to originate from everywhere at once, the psychological effect immediate. 2 more gang members broke for their trucks, and Silas let them go. They would spread the word better than any warning he could give. Then came the moment he had planned for. Jared Stone, Caleb's younger brother, stepped right into Silas's most elaborate trap, a snare built from heavy-duty cable that caught his leg and yanked him upward. He dangled 6 feet off the ground, screaming in pain and terror. "Jared!" Caleb's shout carried real fear. "Now, where are you?" Silas triggered his last set of lights, powerful LEDs creating a disorienting strobe effect. In the chaos, he approached Jared's hanging form, the young man's eyes widening as Silas emerged from the smoke like a nightmare, his massive silhouette backlit by the burning barn. "Please," Jared whimpered, "don't kill me." "Not my style," Silas replied calmly, then delivered a precise strike that left Jared limp but breathing. Caleb and his remaining men found Jared minutes later after Silas had disappeared back into the shadows. The cable had cut deep into Jared's leg, and he would need medical attention. They struggled to get him down, cursing and panicking. "Fall back!" Caleb finally ordered, helping carry his unconscious brother to the truck. "Fall back now!" Silas watched them retreat through his thermal scope, their heat signatures bright against the cool night. Their trucks peeled out on the gravel road, leaving behind weapons, wounded pride, and enough evidence to bury them legally. Standing in the shadows of his burning barn, Silas's silhouette remained calm and still, breathing steady, heart rate normal, just like countless operations in his past life. He clicked his radio 3 times, signaling all clear to Martha. The fire department sirens wailed in the distance, finally responding to the blaze. Silas knew the police would arrive conveniently late, but that didn't matter anymore. The game had changed, and his opponents had no idea who they were really dealing with. The morning sun crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across Silas's farm. Yellow police tape fluttered around the smoldering remains of the barn, and news vans had already gathered at the property line like vultures. Inside their kitchen, Silas and Martha watched the local Channel 5 news broadcast with growing disbelief. The footage showed only carefully selected clips: Jared Stone hanging from the cable, injured gang members being loaded into ambulances, and Caleb's tearful interview. "We were just checking on old Blackwood." Caleb's voice cracked perfectly on camera. "Heard some strange noises, wanted to make sure he was okay, then out of nowhere, violence, military-grade weapons, could have killed my brother." Martha's coffee cup hit the table hard. "They edited out the firebombs, the racist graffiti, everything." "Of course they did," Silas replied, his calm voice masking deep anger. "Channel 5 is owned by Caleb's cousin." The reporter's voice continued. "Sources say Silas Blackwood, a local farmer with suspected militant ties, may have been stockpiling weapons. Concerned citizens gathered to investigate suspicious activity when they were allegedly attacked with excessive force." Ty burst through the screen door, out of breath. "Y'all seeing this? They are saying you assaulted them. It's all over social media, too." Martha pulled out her phone, scrolling through local Facebook groups where post after post showed the same doctored clips accompanied by angry comments. "Dangerous militant needs to be locked up. This is what happens when they take our land. Sheriff needs to do something." "We have the real footage," Silas said, nodding toward his security cameras. "Shows everything." "Already downloaded it," Martha replied. "But Channel 5 won't air it, and look at this. The Stone family lawyer is calling for your arrest." Outside, more news vans arrived, reporters shouting questions through the fence, cameras pointed like weapons, and a small crowd had gathered too, mostly white faces wearing hostile expressions. Ty paced the kitchen. "This isn't right. We got to show people what really happened." "Working on it," Martha said, typing rapidly on her laptop. "Trying to reach some national outlets, but these local stations are painting Silas as some kind of black militant terrorist." Silas stood, his massive frame blocking the morning light through the window. "Need to talk to Roy," he said quietly. "Sheriff Higgins?" Ty scoffed. "Man, he is probably in Caleb's pocket too." "Maybe," Silas replied. "But he knows me. 20 years of being neighbors counts for something." Martha touched his arm. "Be careful, this isn't just about the farm anymore." The drive into town felt different. People who normally waved now turned away, and outside the diner, a group of men glared as Silas's truck passed. The fear his night of defense had instilled was being transformed into anger by Caleb's media manipulation. The sheriff's office was busy, deputies whispering and staring as Silas walked in, his size normally commanding respect but today making people nervous, like his mere presence confirmed their worst suspicions. Sheriff Roy Higgins's office door was open, the old lawman sitting behind his desk looking tired and uncomfortable as Silas filled the doorway. "Come in, Silas," Roy said quietly. "Close the door." Silas sat, the chair creaking under his weight, and for a moment neither man spoke. "Got quite a situation here," Roy finally said, not meeting Silas's eyes. "You know what really happened, Roy. What I know and what I can prove are different things." The sheriff shuffled some papers. "Caleb's got 3 witnesses saying you attacked them unprovoked, got medical bills, property damage. They burned my barn." Silas's voice remained level. "Killed my livestock, tried to run me off my land. Any proof?" "Security footage, clear as day." Roy finally looked up, his face pained. "Footage gets corrupted, witnesses change their minds. You know how things work here." "Thought you were different, Roy." The sheriff stood, pacing behind his desk. I got the county commissioner breathing down my neck, got citizens demanding action. Caleb's family owns half the businesses in town, and that makes it right? Makes it complicated, Roy snapped, then softer. I got no choice, Silas. There's a warrant for your arrest. Assault, excessive force, suspected weapons violations. Silas didn't move. That how it's going to be? Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Roy's hand drifted toward his gun. Come in quiet, we'll sort this out proper. Through the office window, Silas could see Martha and Ty arriving in her car. They had followed him, worried, smart. Think I'll decline, Silas said, standing slowly. You want me, you'll need to find me first. Don't do this, Roy pleaded. System works if you work with it. System's broken, Roy, has been for a long time. Silas turned to leave. You just been pretending not to notice. Silas! Roy called after him. You leave now, there is no going back. But Silas was already moving through the station, his sighs parting deputies like water, none making a move to stop him, having seen what happened to Caleb's gang. Outside, Martha and Ty rushed to meet him. They are really charging you? Ty asked, disbelief in his voice. Get in the car, Silas replied calmly. Both of you, we got work to do. Through the station window, Sheriff Higgins watched them drive away, his face a mask of conflict and regret. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees as Silas's truck wound down back roads he'd known since childhood. In the rearview mirror, police lights flashed in the distance, but they were searching main roads, amateur moves that made him shake his head. They will check the farm first, Martha said from the passenger seat, her phone buzzing constantly with messages. Then your sister's place in Marshall County. Let them, Silas replied, turning down an unmarked dirt path. Won't find anything worth finding. Ty sat forward from the back seat. Where are we heading? Big S has spots they don't know about. Silas's large hands guided the wheel with surprising gentleness. Navy taught me more than just fighting. The truck climbed a steep hill, branches scraping the sides, until at the top a small hunting cabin sat nearly invisible among the trees, its weatherwood blending perfectly with the forest. Pull around back, Martha instructed. Less visible from the air if they bring helicopters. Inside, the cabin was sparse but prepared. Silas moved with purpose, pulling up floorboards to reveal cache supplies, water, food, first aid, and several hard drives. Your surveillance footage? Ty asked. Copies? Silas nodded. Originals somewhere safer. Never keep all your intel in one place. Martha had set up her laptop using a satellite connection that couldn't be easily traced, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she typed emails to old contacts. Leon at the ACLU is reviewing the case, she reported. And Pastor Jenkins's office called back. They are mobilizing supporters. What about the footage? Ty paced the small cabin. Can't we just put it online? Not yet, Silas replied, checking the windows. Need the right timing. Release it too soon, they will find ways to discredit it. Police sirens wailed in the distance, then faded. Silas's phone buzzed, a text from a sympathetic deputy warning that roadblocks were going up on county lines. They are pushing the dangerous militant angle hard, Martha said, reading news updates. Sheriff's office is claiming you have an arsenal hidden on the farm. Only arsenal I got is up here. Silas tapped his temple. And they ain't ready for that. As darkness fell, they moved again, Silas leading them through the woods on foot using night vision gear from his SEAL days, crossing streams to mask their trail and avoiding obvious paths. 2 hours later, they reached another safe house, an abandoned church deep in the woods that local kids thought was haunted. Perfect cover. Inside, Silas set up a small command center, multiple screens showing different camera feeds from around his property, watching as police searched the farm, Caleb Stone strutting around like he owned the place already. Look at this. Martha called them over to her laptop, playing a clip from the local news where townspeople they'd known for years called Silas dangerous and demanded action. The fear in their eyes seemed real, Ty said quietly. They actually believe it. They believe what's easier to believe, Silas replied, his voice heavy. Black man defending his land must be violent, must be dangerous, tale as old as the soil we stand on. He pulled up the real footage on another screen, images crystal clear, Caleb's gang setting fires, shooting animals, screaming racial slurs, their attack methodical and practiced. Problem is, Martha said, people see what they expect to see, even with proof. Some won't want to believe they've been supporting the real criminals. Ty slumped against the wall. So what do? We fight smart, Silas replied. Not just with fists or guns, got to change minds, show truth so clear they can't deny it. Martha's phone lit up with responses from her contacts. Legal aid was coming but slowly, civil rights organizations were mobilizing supporters but carefully. One wrong move could make Silas look more dangerous. Got word from Leon, she said. He is filing emergency motions, but Caleb's family has half the judges in their pocket, going to take time. Outside and all hooted, and Silas checked the perimeter cameras he'd set up earlier. No movement except wildlife, his training keeping him alert but patient. They will search these woods tomorrow, he said. But they don't know them like I do, don't know how to track, how to think ahead. What about the rest of the footage? Ty asked. The stuff showing what they did to other farms. Safe, Silas replied. Got evidence going back years, Caleb's gang pushing folks off their land, burning them out, police reports that went nowhere. Martha touched his arm. We will make them hear now. Through the church's broken stained glass windows, they could see police lights in the distance searching, looking for a threat, a militant, a monster, unaware that the real monster had been walking among them all along wearing a friendly face and a sheriff's badge. Dawn broke over the abandoned church, sunlight filtering through broken stained glass as Ty paced the dusty floor, phone pressed to his ear. Yeah man, you heard right, Big S needs us, all of us. He listened, nodding. Meet at Jackson's barber shop, 2 hours. Martha looked up from her laptop. How many coming? Got 15 confirmed, Leon from the VFW is bringing more vets. Ty's eyes lit up. People remember what the Stones did to their families. They'd been waiting for a chance to stand up. Silas sat cleaning his night vision gear, his large frame somehow making the ancient pew look small. Tell them to be smart, no weapons, no threats, we fight this clean. They know, Ty assured him. We learn from you, Big S, spraying over bullets. By mid-morning, Jackson's barbershop hummed with quiet energy, young men and women filling every chair, veterans in faded military caps sitting beside teenagers in hoodies, all black, all focused on doctrine. They think they can chase Big S off his land like they did our parents and grandparents. Ty's voice carried clear passion. But times changed, we got phones, we got cameras, we got truth on our side. Leon, a Vietnam vet with gray-streaked dreads, stood up. Got 20 more vets ready to show support, non-violent but visible. Let them see we ain't backing down. Across town, Martha worked her own angle, the community center filled with church ladies, teachers, small business owners, people who'd known Silas for decades now uncertain after the media storm. Look at these photos. Martha spread them on tables, images of the Stone Gang's real work, burned buildings, terrorized families, police reports stamped case closed without investigation. This isn't about one farm, it's about all of us. Mrs. Johnson, who taught 3rd grade, picked up a photo. They burned the Williams place last year. Police said it was electrical because that's what the Stones told them to say. Martha's voice was steel wrapped in silk. But we have proof now, real proof. Back in the church hideout, Silas monitored police band radio. Search patterns were sloppy. They didn't expect him to stay close. A rookie mistake. His burner phone buzzed, a text from Deputy Garcia. Sheriff wants meeting, neutral ground, says it's important. Silas showed Martha the message when she returned. Could be a trap. Could be, but Garcia is solid, his boys served with SEALs in Afghanistan. They arranged to meet carefully. Garcia would talk to Martha in the grocery store parking lot in full view of security cameras. No direct contact with Silas. Evening shadows stretched long when Martha pulled in. Garcia looked nervous, scanning the lot. Sheriff's scared, he said quietly, pretending to check her tail light. Caleb's pushing him hard, but something's breaking. He knows this went too far. Too far was years ago, Martha replied. What's his message? Tell Blackwood. Tell him the law can't help anymore. Caleb's got judges, politicians in his pocket. They are planning something big, military-grade weapons, outside muscle coming in. Martha's heart clenched, but her voice stayed steady. Why tell us? Because my daddy saw this before in Alabama, saw good people stay quiet while evil men burned and killed. I took an oath to protect, not to help terrorists. Back at the church, Ty reported on the day's progress. Over 50 people ready to stand publicly with Silas, dozens more supporting quietly. Local black churches opening food banks for families who might face retaliation. Got some white folks asking to help too, he added. Miss Sarah from the diner, Doc Peterson, people starting to see the truth. Silas absorbed the information silently. When Martha delivered the deputy's warning, he simply nodded. Expected this, he said. Caleb's daddy did the same thing in '65, brought in clan members from 3 states when the first black family bought land here. But we ain't in '65, Ty insisted. We got numbers now, we got power. Power ain't just in numbers, Silas replied. It's in being ready, being smarter. They expect violence, give them peace. They expect chaos, give them order. Martha opened her laptop, showing social media posts, support growing, questions being asked, the narrative shifting slowly but surely. Rally planned for Sunday, she said. Peaceful, professional, every phone recording, every moment documented. Let them try to spin that. Through the broken windows, they could see police lights still searching, but now other lights moved in the darkness too, cars driving slow past the stone properties, phones recording, community patrols watching the watchers. The war wasn't just coming, it was already here, being fought with cameras instead of guns, truth instead of terror, and somewhere in the county, a sheriff sat in his office staring at photos of old friends turned terrorists, wondering if he had the strength to finally do what was right. Caleb Stone's hands shook as he loaded shells into his new AR-15, 5 more identical rifles lying on the table with price tags still attached. Around his garage, 24 men checked weapons and gear, their faces hard with hate and fear. They are making us look weak, Caleb spat. That fat old man has the whole county laughing at us. Jimmy Carter, fresh out of state prison with Nazi tattoos on his neck, chambered around. Ain't nobody going to laugh after tonight. Got 10 more boys coming from Rayburn County, real serious players. The garage reeked of gun oil and cheap beer. Maps of Silas's farm covered one wall, marked with red XS and arrows. Caleb had been obsessing over them for days. Remember, he told the group. We go in heavy this time, no more playing nice, anyone gets in our way. He drew a finger across his throat. Outside, more trucks pulled up, men with prison muscles and dead eyes climbing out carrying duffel bags that clinked with metal. Brought some special toys, one said, unzipping his bag to reveal homemade explosives. This will open up that farmhouse real quick. Meanwhile, at the Blackwood farm, Silas worked methodically in the pre-dawn light, setting up defensive positions, years of SEAL training guiding every decision. Channel their movement here, he explained to Ty, pointing to a narrow path between buildings. Force them to bunch up, make them nervous. Ty helped string razor wire in the tall grass, concealing it carefully. Like a funnel. Exactly, when people panic, they run where you want them to. They had transformed the farm over several days. Trenches filled with sharpened stakes lay hidden under loose hay, motion sensors connected to floodlights waited in the shadows. These holes, Silas pointed to seemingly random depressions, will fill with water when they step in, disorient them. Inside the barn, they built fortified positions, bulletproof vests donated by sympathetic veterans hung ready. Remember your training, Silas told Ty. Stay calm, think 3 moves ahead, they will be angry, sloppy, use that. By afternoon, more defenders arrived quietly. Leon and his veteran friends moved like ghosts, adding their own expertise. One rigged old truck batteries to metal fencing. Just like Nam. Leon grinned. Non-lethal, but they will sure remember it. Silas had hidden cameras covering every angle feeding to secure servers off-site. Whatever happened, there would be proof this time. Martha coordinated with lawyers and media contacts, ready to broadcast any violence. The perimeter is solid, Ty reported. Those first tripwires will alert us before they get within 100 yards. Silas nodded, checking his tactical radio. Keep the young ones back, veterans on point, nobody plays hero. They converted the old grain silo into a command center, screens showing thermal and night vision feeds. They will come from multiple directions, Silas said, studying the displays. Try to split our attention, but they don't know about the drainage ditches. As sunset approached, the defenders made final preparations. Medical supplies were staged, escape routes memorized. They are bringing explosives, Ty warned, showing intel from sympathetic sources. Expected that, Silas replied calmly. That's why we hardened the walls, concrete and steel plates behind the wood, let them waste their surprises. The farm had become a fortress but didn't look like one. Every defense was hidden, every trap concealed. Psychological warfare, he explained. Let them think they are in control, then show them how wrong they are. Night fell slowly, bringing cool air and cricket songs. In the command center, Silas watched thermal images of wildlife. Remember, his voice carried quiet authority over the radio. We are protecting something bigger than just land, we are standing against generations of hatred. The farm waited in pregnant silence, transformed from a peaceful homestead into a carefully prepared battlefield, not with tanks or artillery, but with the calculated precision of men who understood true combat. The only question was, were the stones ready for what they would face? The sun melted into the horizon, painting the farm in deep shadows. In the command center, Silas watched thermal signatures approaching from 3 directions. Contact, Ty whispered through the radio. Multiple vehicles, engines off, rolling silent. Silas's large frame settled into position. Hold positions, let them commit. The first flashbang exploded near the front gate, temporarily blinding the surveillance cameras, gunfire erupting immediately after, bullets sparking off metal. Shouts and war cries filled the air as the gang charged. Now they are feeling brave, Silas muttered, switching to night vision. Through the green-tinted view, he counted at least 30 attackers. The first group hit the hidden razor wire, screams piercing the night. South groups in the funnel, Leon reported. Triggering Sector 2. Floodlights blazed, blinding the attackers who had removed night vision gear. More screams as men stumbled into water-filled holes. Silas moved silently, circling behind 3 men trying to set up a heavy machine gun, finding pressure points until they dropped unconsciously. Behind you! Ty's warning came just as a baseball bat swung at Silas's head. He turned, absorbing the blow on his shoulder, then used the attacker's momentum to throw him into a tractor tire. More explosions rocked the farmhouse, but the reinforced walls held. They are getting frustrated, Silas observed, breathing heavily. Watch for mistakes. A group rushed the barn, triggering the electrified fence. Bodies convulsed and fell. Those behind retreated in panic. Silas felt the strain in his joints as he climbed to a higher position, age making every movement harder, but his mind remained sharp. Through his scope, he spotted Caleb Stone directing men toward the grain silo, face contorted with rage. They are pushing east, Silas warned. A bullet grazed his arm, hot pains slicing through muscle. Big S, you hit? Flesh wound, Silas grunted, returning fire with controlled bursts. 2 attackers fell with non-lethal wounds. Stay focused. The gang's attack deteriorated into confusion, men firing at shadows and falling into traps. Silas moved again, catching his reflection in a window, blood darkening his sleeve, not the soft target they expected. West side clear, Leon reported. They are falling back. Silas watched through thermal as heat signatures retreated, angry shouts filling the air. Defensive positions, Silas ordered, checking his wound. They will regroup and try again. The farm fell quiet except for moans from injured attackers. Ty appeared with a first aid kit. Let me look at that arm. Silas allowed him to bandage the wound. They didn't expect us to be ready, Ty said. They never do, Silas replied. Pride blinds them. The darkness thickened like tar. Inside the farmhouse, Silas pressed a cold compress against his arm while studying the screens. They are coming back, Ty whispered. Bigger push. They will target the house directly, Silas said. The first Molotov cocktail crashed through a window, flames spreading, but Silas activated the sprinkler system. Sledgehammers crashed against the door. Basement positions, Silas ordered. Let them think they are winning. The defenders retreated downstairs as the gang breached the entrance, heavy boots thundering above. No, Silas whispered. Ty hit the switches, plunging the house into darkness. Night vision goggles activated, giving defenders perfect sight. Silas moved like a ghost, choking out the first attacker silently. What the hell? Someone fired wildly. Ty struck next, bodies dropping as panic spread. Silas grappled with a large attacker, his ribs protesting, but he twisted the man's wrist until bones cracked. They are everywhere! Terror filled the voices. Silas drove his fist into a kidney, his breath coming harder, sweat soaking his shirt. A lucky punch caught his jaw, but he slammed the attacker down. Ty status? 6 down here, getting sloppy now, scared. Through night vision, Silas spotted Caleb Stone trying to rally his men, holding one of the farm cats with a knife to its throat. Come out, you big black bastard! Caleb screamed. Or I start sending pieces of this cat to your wife. The hidden cameras caught everything, the slurs, the cruelty. Silas moved like liquid shadow, his hand clamping around Caleb's wrist, squeezing until the knife clattered away. The cat leaped free as Caleb howled. You are on camera, Silas whispered. Every word. Caleb tried to break free. You can't prove nothing. Already have. Silas pushed him, sending him staggering. Run home now while you can still walk. Caleb fled, dragging his wounded. Outside, community members had gathered, recording everything, Caleb's bloody face, his racist screams. Word spreading, Ty reported. People are sharing the videos already, calling you a hero. Silas just grunted, feeling every bruise. The morning sun crept over the horizon. Silas sat heavily at his kitchen table holding an ice pack to his jaw while Martha cleaned his arm. These need stitches, she muttered. Red and blue lights flooded the kitchen, Sheriff Higgins's voice booming. Freeman, come out with your hands visible. Martha squeezed his shoulder. This isn't right. Evidence doesn't matter much right now, Silas said, standing with effort. Ty, stay back. Silas walked to the porch, hands raised. 6 officers had weapons drawn. On your knees! He is injured, Martha called out. Silas lowered himself, and Sheriff Higgins approached with handcuffs, eyes avoiding Silas. Silas Blackwood, you are under arrest for aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal vigilantism. This is wrong and you know it. Martha's voice cut the air. We have video. Ma'am, step back. An officer blocked her. Ty shouted from inside, but Silas commanded. Quiet, Ty, record everything. They hauled him up roughly. Neighbors gathered, filming, shouting. Through the cruiser window, Silas watched his farm recede, his life's work scarred but standing. The jail intake was slow. They ignored his injuries until a bored nurse checked his arm. Cell block C, the guard announced. Protective custody. The cell was bare concrete. Silas sat on the thin mattress, closing his eyes, controlling his breathing. Hours crept by. Finally, a guard appeared. Phone call. Martha's voice was tight. They came to the house. 2 men claiming to be building inspectors said they received complaints. I saw their truck at Caleb's garage. Anger heated Silas's chest. Are you safe? Ty is here, but Silas, the footage from our security cameras is gone. Someone hacked the cloud storage. Physical drives are missing. Silas pressed his forehead against the wall. Lawyers still coming? Yes, but they are pushing for federal charges now, claiming he used military tactics against civilians. Stay strong, he said softly. Truth will out. Back in his cell, Silas began his meditation routine. 5 days later, Ty hunched over Martha's kitchen table surrounded by hard drives. Found another backup, he announced. They didn't know about the micro SD cards in the barn cameras. Martha leaned over. How much footage? Everything, the firebombs, the torture, it's all here in HD. Send it to everyone, Martha directed. Encrypt copies. Ty started the uploads. Already trending on Twitter, Free Silas Blackwood is picking up steam. Outside, cars lined the street. In his cell, Silas did push-ups. A Latino officer named Garcia watched. My son was a SEAL too, he said quietly. Saw the footage this morning, ain't right. Shouts erupted from the prison yard. Breaking news banners flashed on the TV showing the brutal clarity of the attack and Silas's careful defense. Holy cow! Someone whispered. Big man's innocent. Outside the jail, protests swelled. In her office, Martha fielded endless calls. Yes, we have more footage. Ty coordinated with organizers. The story exploded across social media. Inside the jail, the mood shifted. Guards whispered, inmates nodded respectfully. Garcia brought fresh food. Administration's nervous. In the sheriff's office, Roy Higgins watched the protests, resignation papers waiting on his desk. Back at the farm, Martha addressed the crowd. This is about every American's right to defend their home. Ty stood beside her. In his cell, Silas sat cross-legged, hearing the chant. Free Silas, free man. Dawn broke with the thump of helicopter rotors as FBI vehicles converged on the stone compound. FBI, on the ground now! Tactical teams swept through, tackling Caleb Stone as he reached for a shotgun. Caleb Stone, you are under arrest for federal hate crimes. At the sheriff's office, agents boxed evidence. Internal Affairs discovered the cover-ups. Sheriff Higgins sat alone, removing his badge. I'll tell you everything, he told the agents entering his office. At the jail, Garcia unlocked the cell. You are a free man. Silas emerged to deafening cheers, Martha running to embrace him, Ty grinning. The FBI got them all, she whispered. Across town, Caleb sat in federal custody, swagger gone, facing 25 to life. Sheriff Higgins drove away from his precinct, leaving his shame behind. At the courthouse, Caleb pleaded not guilty, but the evidence was overwhelming. Otis watched from the gallery as the men who tried to destroy him looked small. Outside, reporters swarmed. At the Blackwood farm, the community gathered to rebuild. This is what justice looks like, Ty told the volunteers. The FBI exposed decades of corruption. Silas walked through his front gate, supporters cheering. Welcome home, brother, said the president of the Black Farmers Association. We are ready to rebuild, Ty said. Silas surveyed the damage. Let's get to work. The barn's new frame took shape. My granddaddy built the original, Silas told the youth. Blackwood men don't run. By late afternoon, Martha announced the Heritage Land Defense Fund. Applause rolled across the property. The new barn gleamed in the sunset. You changed things, Big S, Ty said. He showed us what real strength looks like. 3 months later, Silas walked the fields with a group of teenagers. Good soil tells you its secrets, he said, letting dirt sift through his fingers. Ty stood at his shoulder. The farm had flourished. Mr. Blackwood, young Leon asked, is it true you took down 3 men? We don't focus on the fighting, Silas said. This is about living. A small boy watched from the fence. Is it true what they say? He asked Ty. He is real, Ty replied. A lion in farmer's skin. The boy watched Silas lead the students, seeing now that true power often wore humble clothes. On Freeman Farm, the work continued, rooted in the truth that standing your ground meant building something worth defending. I trust you found that narrative compelling. Please distribute it among your companions and subscribe to ensure you do not overlook the subsequent tale. In the interim, I have selected 2 additional stories for you that I believe you will appreciate. Have a splendid day.